and basically being put back into physical slavery of a different kind from the South, but still a system where whites would be able to abuse you without question, without any kind of repercussions. They would be a white industrial complex. People who ran it, the corrections officers, if you want to call them that, they would be able to beat you. They would be able to strip you down, rape you. They would be able to throw you in a hole for days and weeks. They would be able to not feed you. Whatever the situation, you would feel like you were back on the cotton picking plantation. And so that kept a lot of northern blacks in complete control and under complete submission. And whites used every aspect of white society in order to do this. They used the white education. You were required as Negroes to learn white history, fictitious or not. You were required to learn it. You were required to submit to white God and a white Jesus, and submit yourself totally to white priests and white preachers. You were required to live off of 1/10, like I say, of what white families and white men lived off of. You were required to still bow down to yes sir, no ma'am to white people. You were basically still a slave. You just were, by the grace of white people, taken out of physical slavery. But you could still be hung. You just would be found hung in a prison industrial cell. So, very dishonorable stuff going on. Black men were required to be submissive on jobs to white males, and they were still not allowed to voice their opinions in any strong manner. They were submissive to whites in unions and whatnot, and they always got the crumbs that were left over. White women were still relegated to maids and handmaidens and sewers and receptionists, and they actually had to work up to reception because those were jobs for white women. And so very dishonorable stuff going on. You had the financial sector that actually kept black businesses out, kept black money under white control, and kept things dishonorable on the money front. And then you had the political front that kept blacks from running for office, blacks from voting in too large a block, or kept blacks from voting for certain things, and made sure that blacks voted the way the white people wanted them to vote. So very dishonorable there. So you had black women, of course, that were required to teach black children that these white people in the North were good. And so black children, while seeing all of these bad and dishonorable things that were occurring, had to kind of close their eyes to that and just believe that the white Jesus would save them from these white people who still seem to be pretty bad. And so you start seeing whites actually, as they were losing control of blacks, started deceptively pitting, just like in the South, pitting black people against each other. And so you saw this separation of blacks in the Negro neighborhoods and Negro cities that were now separating. The ones that were acceptable to whites were able to be here, and the ones that were not acceptable or not compromising or conforming were relegated to be in the so-called ghettos or whatnot. And you saw senior citizens that were still trying to maintain the family, hold it together, and, keep the hope alive, if you will. And at the same time, you saw black businesses trying to hang on. They had, did a lot of growth and a lot of sustaining themselves in the black communities from the 1900s to the 1950s. And now you had whites that were actually coming back and saying, well, no, you're doing too much, and you're getting, too big for your britches, if you will. And so there's all of these different attacks started occurring with black businesses, and they were having a harder time getting supplies because they were being charged so much for supplies, having a hard time getting insurance with the white insurance companies. So, and the black insurance companies were constantly under threat because they actually developed black insurance companies in the 1910s and 1920s to insure black businesses that could not get insurance from white insurance companies. And so now these black insurance companies were under threat, and financial whites were trying to infiltrate these black insurance companies in order to control their growth. You even had some of the previous shows I talked about somebody like Jane Fonda actually buying out the whole second floor of the black insurance company in Atlanta. I mean, you're like, first of all, why would she want that? But, she has this organization. We talked in the last show about how white women had started these organizations in the 70s and 80s and 90s for black young girls to turn them into these basically man-hating, single mother, I can do it all by myself, feminist, lesbian women. And so black organizations did not do their fiduciary duty to stop this, to counter this. And so it grew like a cancer in the black community until it got to what you see today. And then, of course, black entertainers, they were hit from all sides and paid to literally not only lose their minds, but to infect other blacks into losing their minds as well, even going as far as paying black entertainers to promote the spread of HIV and AIDS in the black community. And so, you think about how deceptive and dishonorable it must be for white pharmaceutical companies, white politicians, white government to literally, deliberately pay uneducated and miseducated Negro people to do songs like, you got a song that says, cheat on your misery, that's how you get a his ed. That's the kind of stuff that was being spit out by these uneducated children being paid by these white males and white females to basically spread degradation and disease through the black community. And so in the last show you heard how entertainers played a huge part when it came to the degradation that whites had planned for the Negro population, the Negro cities, the Negro towns, the Negro communities. And so between white entertainers, between black entertainers, black preachers, and black politicians, the black community really had no positive representation. They had all these three entities telling them that in order to be accepted by whites, they had to submit themselves to perversions. They had to submit themselves to demonism and had to basically do whatever it took for the almighty dollar.